Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, frequent flyers. Thank you for being here in the lounge. Today I have with me Sabrina Thompson, and we are just going to have some fun this Friday. And we're going to be talking about fashion and space and why the two definitely belong together. And it's been long overdue. We were just before we went live having a conversation around the most recent conference we were at, how it was like the favorite thing at the show. It literally stole the show. So, Sabrina, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show with me today.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So tell me a little bit more. You're an aerospace engineer with NASA. Have you always had the knack for art and creativity as well as the more science and technical, or was that something that you had but maybe put on the shelf for a while and then nurtured back later in life? Tell me a little bit more about your journey with the arts.
Yeah, so I was always the artsy kid. So for as long as I could remember, I remember in kindergarten, they would give us time to draw, and was drawing these stick figures with these big heads and like stick bodies. And I couldn't understand why I was the only one drawing Bart Simpson and Ninja Turtles. And it actually looked like Bart Simpson and Ninja Turtles. And I'm like, you can't do this. Right. So since I was young, I was always drawing. If I saw something on TV and I liked it, I would draw it.
Just play with it.
Yeah, yeah. So I always had like this vivid imagination of, just kind of like taking things in reality and spinning them, and turn them into something else on paper. Um, I was I was one of those kids who wanted to do the right thing when I was, growing up. So, and I was always curious,
Mm.
and I didn't like being last. So there was some competitiveness there. So anything that revolved around like being the best or not being last. I didn't want to, as a kid, I did not want to stand out.
Mm.
Right. So um, I did well in school because that's what was expected of me.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I wanted to be the good girl.
Hmm.
So the good girl
Oh
does what
yeah.
she's supposed to do. So that's that's for education wise, like doing well in school. That's what that was about. It wasn't because I was interested in STEM. I had no, I mean, they didn't talk about STEM back then, right? It was just like science and math,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, do well. Okay, which one are you going to do well? And I didn't want to be the one that didn't do well. So I just paid attention in class and
Yeah.
I ended up just getting good grades. And that was it. And it was like, well, what do you do with this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing what my parents told me to do. Can I go back and make art now?
Yeah.
Can I go back and play basketball now? That's what it was.
I love that. Well, that also goes to show that no matter where your creativity or your talents lie, when you do the work and you pay attention, you're able to do things, even if it's not something that you're naturally super gifted at, right? You're not a savant with mathematics, but you pay attention, you do the work, you can have a very good result.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely.
That good girl archetype, though, that gets a lot of us. That definitely got me too.
Right.
I was, I'm a recovering people pleaser. So,
Same here.
like, what can I do to get the gold star, and how do I make sure that you're happy? And,
Mm-hmm.
it's great for customer service. Man, I'm
Mm-hmm.
really good at work for that. I'm really good at, the details of a project and like persuading people to move things along because,
Mm-hmm.
they build this bond with them. But man, is it exhausting
Yeah.
to
Yes.
be in that archetype all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really interesting. Have you watched Wreck-It Ralph 2? Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, so I don't want to give away the whole movie, but there is a scene where the main character in Wreck-It Ralph 2, one of the main characters is a young girl. She's a race car driver, cartoon character, right?
Mm-hmm.
From a video game. And she stumbles into a room full of Disney princesses. And they're all sitting there doing whatever, and they're like, "Oh, so what's your issue?" And they then go down the list of like all the issues that they had. So it was like Disney saying, "Yes, we know we kind of messed up with these films because of these things." And she's like, "I don't have any of those." And they're like, "Well, do you need like a man to save you? Is there a man in your life that's just trying to save you and protect you from all this stuff?" She's like, "Oh yeah." And they're like, "Oh, okay, that's yeah." It's just really funny to like kind of reflect back as we were also talking before we went live, the inputs that we were given
Mm-hmm.
and the narrative of, good girls are quiet, they're agreeable, they look nice, they are smart, they don't talk back, like all of those things. Did you ever go through a rebellious phase though?
Yes, in adulthood.
In adulthood.
I waited until I was an adult. And now I feel like now I am the rebel sort of speak, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm the quiet rebel. Like I am a I am a fire sign, so I am an Aries, but I'm not, it's like that I have to be triggered, right? In order
Okay.
for it to come out. I'll try
Yeah.
to do things the quote unquote right way. I'll say quote unquote the traditional way, let's say. I'll try to
Yes.
do things
Yeah.
the traditional way. And then once things don't make sense to me and it just seems like, okay, we're just going through the motions, we're not getting anywhere, then the rebel comes out, right? Because it's like, okay, we have to get somewhere. I tried your way and it's not working.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I definitely I pushed boundaries when I was a kid.
Hmm.
I definitely got caught like sneaking out and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. Oh, we
Hmm.
lost you for a second.
Sorry.
There you are. That's okay.
Hmm.
Um, and but it was always that kind of fear of getting in trouble or, whatever that kept me mostly in line.
Hmm.
I also was just more of a like, well, I'm just gonna do it and then see what happens. So it's like the beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission type of attitude.
Uh-huh.
And because a lot of the time I was still able to get the job done or do whatever was asked of me and have this other thing happening, whatever that might have been,
Hmm.
it was usually okay. It was usually not commented on or made a big fuss over because it's like, oh well, okay, you still got your job. I'm not really thrilled, but you got the job done, so I can't really be
Yeah.
mad at you, right? Like
Yeah.
that was kind
Yeah.
of my sneaky way of being rebellious. But yes, a lot of mine waited also until adulthood.
Yeah.
And I think my first real big one was when I shaved the side of my head and I still have
Uh-huh.
like long hair on one side and is that like Viking hairstyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I still remember like walking around the streets of Hong Kong, like, what are you gonna say to me? I have my own business now. What are you gonna do?
Right. Right.
you know?
Right. Right. Yeah.
I love it. And I love that you nurtured that side of yourself. And I know you do a lot of work now with young girls in STEAM. Let's call it STEAM
Hmm.
because I like to add the A in there. And I
Hmm.
think that the industry is moving in that direction. They're recognizing that we need the nonlinear thinkers. We need those ways of thinking to innovate and to have the like connective tissue between ideas that are so separate or maybe operating in silos in order to be able to blend them and come up with something new.
Hmm.
What are you telling not just young girls but also young men, the young men and women that are in these programs? How are you approaching this topic? What are some of the things that you encourage them and parents maybe to consider?
I, so a lot of you get two kinds of students. You get the students who, or I typically do. I get the student who doesn't have anybody pushing them, who they don't have a clue in terms of what they want to do, but they're open, right?
Mm,
So they're open to try, you know, something new. And then you have the kids who the parent is more, you know, gun ho about having to meet me and interact with me, and the kid is
mm,
like,
whatever.
exactly, I
Yeah.
don't know what this is, right? But then you also have on the other hand, you do have the kid who they're like, you're my superhero.
Mm,
I can't get enough, and usually those are some of the high school students.
Yeah.
But the middle school, kind of elementary age, elementary is like the kind of like the bread and butter in terms of like for programming that we do.
Yeah.
So normally it's not a matter of me telling them anything. It's about me allowing them to use their imagination and don't
Mm.
stifle it, right?
Yeah.
Like don't tell them that can't be done.
Right.
Go there with them. Okay, well, how would you do this?
Mm.
And they come up with all these amazing ideas, you know, like, but their brain is just going. And then as they get older, and you know, reality sets in about what is common, what is
Mhm.
uncommon, and you find that the older students want to fit in a little bit more, like we all did when we were
Yeah.
probably middle school, high school.
God, yeah, those are the ages where it's, like, crucial, right, that you
Yeah,
fit in.
yeah. So with them, you have to show them, okay, well, here's another way, right? You don't necessarily have to go that way because everybody else is going that way. In
Mm,
fact, in fact, I didn't go that way. And
right.
here's where I ended up. And you don't have to end up the same way as me, but you can pick a path that, and usually that's the thing. A lot of the older students, high school and even college age students, they don't know. They're scared to choose. They don't want to choose the quote unquote wrong thing.
Wrong thing.
So then they stay there and they're like, well, I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I'm just going to play my video game.
They just escaping them out.
hmm So we just try to at least create programming. So for the younger kids, we have our STEMulating Art program where we teach the kids STEM concepts through art projects, right? So, yeah. And then as they get older, what we're building right now is an ecosystem where we can have, we partner with different schools and organizations, and we have students come in and intern with us, see what we're doing. We have some who intern virtually. We're going to start doing more in-person internships, so students
Mm,
can start doing
cool.
hands-on stuff, so they can get a glimpse of what it looks like when you actually use both sides of the brain. Like you can focus on some fashion aspect, but you will learn some STEM. You will
Yeah,
learn either some CAD. You're going to be doing some hands-on prototyping to some degree, but they see what that looks like, and it hopefully will open up their world and provide some, you know, future, you know, either opportunities to help them decide what they want to do in college, what they want to
right.
pursue. Some of these kids have entrepreneurial, they want to pursue entrepreneurial endeavors, so it gives them an idea, and then some they want to work. They
Yeah,
just want to, you know, so it gives them an idea of, you know, how they can shape their path, right? Although it might not be traditional, you know.
I I think that's wonderful, especially because it's like gamifying in a way, right? The
Mm-hmm.
ability to learn. I mean, I still remember playing there's a game my mom got me called Gizmo's Gadgets, and
Mm.
it was a engineering, basically, and math and science video game.
Mm-hmm.
You'd build these race cars using different, gears and tools and things, and then test them.
Mm-hmm.
I played that a lot, but obviously in the background, you're learning concepts and
Yeah.
it's not the traditional method of learning, but you integrate it in a different way, and I still remember in 8th grade doing, I don't even remember what the class was called, but we had these different modules and you'd kind of rotate. And what really stood out to me in those modules was there was a section where we used CAD and we
Mm-hmm.
also built rockets and then set them off, and whoever's rocket like went the highest in the class, right, like kind of got recognition or an award or something. We had balsa wood and we built bridges and applied
Mm-hmm.
pressure to see like how strong these bridges were based on the design we used, and like that really stuck in my mind because it was fun and it was
Yeah.
like hands on, it was tactile.
Yeah.
And so that type of programming that you have is wonderful because it's one thing, as you said, to like tell whether it's a kid or an adult, tell them something versus have them experience something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of, unfortunately, right, once they get to middle school and high school, some of it is undoing, right? But if you grab them earlier, what we learned, the better chance you have of building up their confidence so that they're okay with not fitting in if they don't, right?
Yeah.
Or they can fit in, but they can still be very decisive about, no, this is something I'm interested in and I'm going to do it, whether everybody else is with me or not, you
Mm.
know? Um, so, yeah.
Having that conviction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to get in at that younger age because it really is about access and like
Yep.
planting the seed, right? If you never take your daughter to an air show, she will never be exposed to those types of opportunities or awareness that like, hey, there's female pilots. Hey, there's something called Civil Air Patrol. Hey, there's like all of these other career opportunities that I can consider.
Yep.
And so it's really important that no matter the gender of your child, in my opinion, that you
Yep.
expose them to art and science and math and engineering and let them do your best to remove your filters and your wishes and desires for them and
Mm-hmm.
nurture what's there,
Yep.
right? Because I think I feel that we're much better at this now than we were in previous generations, and obviously that's
Mm-hmm.
each generation awareness shifts.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still something that a lot of people just, if you're not exposed to it, you will never go down that path, right? You'll
Right.
go the traditional way, or you'll go the way that you see
Yep.
others going because, oh, well, that's just how it is. That's what we do in this town, or that's what we do. If I'm a boy or if I'm a girl, and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with the fashion, I see several of your suits hanging behind you, which I commented on before we went live. What was your catalyst for creating the analog spacesuit for women that you've created, and working on fashionable, comfortable, and functional spacesuits for women?
Yeah. So there are many things that happen, like, we had the Kickstarter campaign at the end of 2022. Um, there was a, burnout session that happened,
Yeah.
that really pulled me back and, really had me really ask the question, what are you doing? You
Mm,
know, you to some people, you've made it, right? You work at NASA, you have this awesome job, and you know you've been working very hard most of your life, right? Academically, you've gone as far as you would like. You tried to go for a PhD twice, one time with engineering, another time on the science side, and you are getting older. And what fight, right? So it was just like one of these things where it's like, do you want to continue to fight this fight?
mm,
When it comes to um, women in academia,
yeah.
right? You can do the work, you can have things planned out, but there are politics. Do you want to play this game, and is it worth it? What are you
Yeah.
going to get at the end, right? What do you? Is there another way to, I don't know, because I always envision myself being a person who would make change, or a person who would live with a larger purpose in mind. And I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what it was. I just had glimpses.
Mm,
And in that moment of being burnt out trying to pursue a PhD and work at NASA full time, I had this voice in my head that just kept pulling me back to art. Sabrina, just stop. And I'm like, no, but I have homework due. I have this. I have to study for quals. Just stop and just take out the note, take out the sketchbook.
mm.
But long story short, all of that, and a trip to Amsterdam where I really went through, like, I actually took a painting class for the first time. I
Wow.
went to all the art museums I could find, everything. And this was during the pandemic, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So literally through all of that, Girl in Space Club was born. I'll say that. And I came back to the States, did the Kickstarter campaign, and made the suit, got the suit made, worked with a product developer. She brought my sketches to life. And it
Amazing.
was like, okay, this cost a lot of money. All right. So it's like, well, the folks in Amsterdam, when I told them about the idea, they're like, oh, you could sell it here. It would be awesome. And I said, well, maybe other people would like this. So I ended up doing the campaign, and that helped me to really know that how other people felt about it.
Mm.
And I wasn't the only one who was tired of hearing, oh, well, give us a seat at the table, um, why don't they do this for women? And women need to be included. And I'm like, yeah, but we can empower ourselves to provide the things that we're missing. We have the skills. Like if we band together and empower one another, there's just something that when women come together for a purpose,
Yeah.
like there is no doubt in my mind that it will get done because of just, I don't know, it's just how we wired or what. Like, I just feel like, and I'm not saying I'm just like all women and no men. No, I'm just saying like when we band together and it's like, well, instead of saying, okay, there's no room at the table for us, let's build another table
Yeah.
for us. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
to me it's that simple, and that's what this whole thing is about. We want to be included. We want to do our jobs better. You know, um, I was at the GLEX summit, for instance, last month, and there are all these women who are scientists, researchers, and they're talking about like, they are one of maybe two or three, or maybe the only woman, and we're looking at, okay, well, what are you wearing? Is it, like, are because of the type of work that you do that is male dominated, does that mean you have to wear a suit that's made for a man, right? You're smaller and whatever, like your shape, are these things being taken into account?
Mm.
And so for us, it's designing with humans in mind, right? um
Yeah.
all we don't, it's no one size fits all for the for
Yeah.
humans, right? We come in all shapes and sizes, right? So you know aerospace is where I have been residing for almost the last 15 years, right? So I'm very familiar with my industry,
Mm.
and being a woman in this industry, I'm very familiar with the type of the amount of tenacity, and I would even call it stubbornness that you have to have, um, to stay in this industry, and not just stay but to strive, right? So
Yeah.
this is part of the reason why I'm like, okay, like that quiet time that I needed, um, when I burned out and I was able to take some time off from work, it helped me to see, okay, this is where this is where I'm supposed to reside, where this thing that doesn't exist can be created because I'm making a pathway for it.
Mm.
So all these stories that I hear that are all so common, let's create a new narrative, right? Let's create solutions and stop talking about the problems if we don't want to come with solutions.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that's a
Powerful.
lot, but yeah.
No, that's good. It's, I've always been a believer in you don't know what you can get until you ask or until you just go and try it yourself, right? And
Yeah.
it's not just even for the women conversation, but for anyone who wants to feel included. So any human
Yeah.
that's feeling the exclusion or the this isn't for me or this doesn't work for me or like an employee at a company, if you are going to just sit there and wait for that company to do something to cater towards your experience, you're going to be waiting a long time, especially if you're in a minority group, whatever that group might be, because it may
Mm-hmm.
not actually align with the interests of productivity, of what that company is doing business for, right? And it's
Yeah.
not a core goal for them. So if you can come up with a solution and help drive it and be the champion for it, that is something to be celebrated. And you can take those problems and make them into opportunities, right? And that's exactly what you did, which is awesome. And I love that you gave yourself that time to just kind of like, I'm not going to do this anymore, this rat race game, right? Because what I heard was I'm going to work full time at NASA and my really technical job, and I'm going to do a PhD full time because that's what I'm supposed to do. Like that's that good girl archetype coming in, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just finished a grad program in March. I graduated, and on the plane home after that, you know what I thought? I wonder when I could get accepted for my PhD. And I'm like, what am I even thinking? Like, no, I have to pay this tuition off first. I need a break. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why do I need to do more? But
Yeah.
it, there's a lot of, and not just women, but there's this narrative of that we have to do more, we have to accomplish or achieve or have ambition just for ambition's sake,
Yeah.
right? And if you're not actively working on something like a PhD or a master's or something that's like a left brain skill,
Mm-hmm.
then like you don't get to kind of talk about it with everybody else. But hey, guess what? Going and taking a pottery class or a dance class, just staring out the window for once in your life with like no stimulation and input, that is actually really powerful.
Yeah.
Uh, and it opens up so many new pathways that
Yeah.
you probably don't even know are missing.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. And I think, balance, balance. And, people ask, like, how do I think it's awesome. You can do the art thing, like in your technical. And I'm like, yeah, but I think we all fully use our brains,
Yeah.
right? We use the left, we use the right. Otherwise, I just think there are some people who are more in tune,
Hmm.
right? And then there are some people who, um, sure, right? I'm not a neuroscientist, so I don't know how to, the brain works. I can't talk intelligently about it, but I do know like there are colleagues of mine at NASA who also, you know, they play in a band, right? Like
Right.
they write
Yeah.
music, right? They do photography, right? So I believe that as an engineer, we understand how systems work.
Mm.
And you can apply that to many different areas, right? So some people ask me, well, how are you running a business? You don't know anything about running a business. And I say, yeah, but I'm the type of person, right? I compare it to like learning a new language. I
Yeah.
just I just go full throttle, right? Like total immersion, right? And I,
Trial by
kick and
fire.
scream. Yeah, like kick and scream. But then I need to be in it long enough to then I start identifying systems.
Mm.
Okay, this is how it works. Oh, okay. So, and it's like putting building blocks together,
Yeah.
right? And that's for me, that's how I learned, right? But it's also again just breaking big systems down to subsystems. And as a business, you want to rinse repeat, right? If you got it
Mhm.
right, okay, how do I get it right again?
How do I
Right?
do it
How do I
again?
keep
Yeah. How
getting
do
it
I
again?
replicate this?
Yeah. So to me, it is engineering, right? If I think about
Absolutely.
it that way, So for me, that's and sometimes I bring that to my art, which isn't always the best, right? Sometimes with art, I just want to jump in. So there is sometimes this struggle between my left and right brain where I just want to jump in and splash colors everywhere. And it's like, wait a minute, let's be methodical about this.
Yeah,
Calm
yeah.
down. Right? So sometimes that battle does happen internally. But
Yeah.
besides that, like I do believe like, that balance, finding that balance is somewhere in between, just kind of using using a little bit of the left, using a little bit of the right, you know. And for me, that's honestly when I'm at peace. If I'm working too hard or putting too many hours in trying to solve a problem at work,
Mm,
I need time off. Like you said, just to look out the window, because then I'm getting inspired by, and I'm letting things marinate, right? And I'm
mm.
not doing, I'm just
Yeah,
being.
instead of trying to like grab an idea, you're letting it
Mm-hmm.
like settle and sink in, and then you
Yeah,
can just have it
yeah,
rather than like trying to like, where is it? Where is it? Right. And
yeah,
then it's always elusive.
yeah, yeah. So as I'm getting older, I'm learning to just let things come. I'm very goal oriented, and now I find myself having a hard time creating the goals or just writing them down, because I'm like, no, I have it in my mind what, like, bits and pieces of a vision,
Right.
and I think I'm just gonna keep moving, keep the momentum going, and the stuff I don't know that, like, how I'm gonna get it done, they're gonna come to me. I know what the what is, I know what the why,
Yeah.
the how. I'm like, uh, I think since I started this business, the how has been like coming to me.
Mm.
And I haven't really been like, once I learned, I'm not gonna say that. I had to learn.
Yeah.
Once I stopped grabbing at everything and just, okay, chill, let it come. And now I see that it's coming. So I'm not, so I have more, time to
Yeah.
just digest, slow down.
Yes. Slow down.
Yeah.
It's like the analogy they use with like sand, right? When you're gripping a handful of sand and it just pours out of your hand, but if you relax your grip, you can hold more of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I noticed, we were talking about like the painting. I started painting again recently. So
Yep.
that's definitely been my left right brain struggle, because in order to start painting, I had to do paint by numbers because it was like
Mm-hmm.
methodical and like, okay, I know where to do the things,
Yeah.
less likely to make a mistake and all of that. And then I lost the map and the paint and the move, and had to just like, I would look at it every once in a while and be like, oh, I should look it up, but I could never find that particular one again. So I didn't do it because I was so scared of doing like the wrong number color. And then just recently I did like this somatic session where it came up that I want to paint. A part of me wants to paint. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to Michael's and I'm just gonna get some paint, and I'm going to choose what number 13 is. I'm not going to look at a map. I'm just
There
going to
you go.
choose myself. And
Yeah.
then I've been blending the paints together and getting new colors. And it's kind of taken me back to like primary school. Like even yesterday, I asked my partner, I was like, what's going to happen if I mix like a yellow undertone with a blue? And he's like, will that give you purple? And we were like thinking about the color map. And so it's just been really fun to do that. But it's an art form for every single person. I think whatever
Yeah.
that balance is, and it just takes practice and it takes noticing like what works for you. Cause what works for you in your process may be really, really difficult for me. And if I try to follow that exactly, I might get frustrated and give up or just not be having a good time with it. So then I don't want to do it anymore. And
Yeah.
then maybe that process works for you in the beginning, but as you grow, right? As the system needs to get bigger, it needs
Yeah.
to shift. It's no,
Yeah.
and then that like maybe becomes a subsystem and you create a bigger ecosystem of everything.
Yep.
And so I thought that was a really beautiful analogy too for a lot of the left brain people to understand how they're really using creativity every day. Maybe their tool is not the pen or pencil for drawing or poetry or writing, and it's not the paintbrush or the camera. Maybe it's CAD, maybe it's
Yep.
Python,
Yep.
maybe it's, God knows what else that I can't even conceive of right now. But there's so many different tools and functions. Even construction,
Yeah.
landscape, like all of
Yeah.
that has some creativity element to it in order to figure out how it all flows together.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I can't wait for more fashion shows. It was for anyone who's watching. I was able to be a model for Sabrina's fashion show at the Analog Astronaut Conference, and we had the most fun. And everybody has been commenting like how that was so fun. They're still talking about it. And even some of the more like normally reserved, quiet people like lit up and they were just so excited. And it just goes to show you like what happens when we can tap back into that inner child we all have,
Yeah.
nurture that excitement and creativity. Because ultimately, why do you get into aerospace? No kid like says, I want to go into aerospace because I want to sit behind a computer and work with a model all day, or I want to do math equations all day. Not really. Maybe a couple.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's some savants who are like that.
Yeah.
But it's because they're inspired by the rocket going into space, or they see the airplane flying, or they see the fast car go by and they're like, I want to make that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we get kind of molded, as you said, and possibilities are taken away from us. And it's like, here's the lane for you to stay in.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like all that sensory input and sensation gets dampened down. And we just kind of go through the motions and like, okay, yeah, this is enough for now, but we don't get that spark. And so
Yeah.
when we have that spark, whatever that is for you, follow it, like nurture it, play with it more, like protect it, put it in a little oil lamp and add oil to it,
Yeah.
in Cantonese, they have a phrase called gayao, which basically means like add oil.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like at the end of a race when people are tired, or when it's like that last push before the final thing,
Yeah.
that's what they'll shout out to you. It's like encouragement, like
Yeah.
just add a little oil, you've got this, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we need to start doing for ourselves and for each other
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
when it comes to creativity.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
amazing. What are some of the projects you have coming up?
So right now, okay, so May was super busy for us, like conference, after conference,
Yeah.
just a bunch of things. Um, and we just finished Glex Summit in June. Hopefully, July would be two more conferences, right? In Las
Yes, we've got
Vegas.
Ascend. We've got
Yeah,
Ascend coming up. Maybe the
Star
another one
Trek. Yeah,
afterwards, Star Trek
maybe.
convention. I'm
Yeah.
going anyway because I'm taking my mom. So
Oh,
yeah, we're gonna nerd out together. And I was like, I'm only gonna take you if you get dressed up. She's like, I was gonna ask you if we could get dressed up. I was like, oh,
oh, perfect.
yeah.
Perfect.
It'll
Yeah.
be fun.
So besides, that we have, we're working on our manufacturing arm and this ecosystem that we're building around it. So we're not trying to build a sweatshop. We want to create a work learn environment so that so we are based in Baltimore and we want to provide um, it's not vocational school, but just think of it as an alternative way for um, young individuals to work and learn.
Okay.
Right? You have a lot of individuals in Baltimore who are they're like artisans. I mean, they're
Mm,
super creative. It's just amazing what some of the stuff coming out of Baltimore. Um, I think just you know exposing some of the younger folks to, okay, what could you do beyond what you think with your
right.
art, right? So if you're a creative and you're making clothing, have you thought about adding tech to your clothing? Have you thought about learning CAD, right, to design your clothing? Have you learned about fabric physics, if you will, right? So really trying to bring in the STEM or the technical way of thinking and combine it with, the technical skills of making garments,
Mm,
right? Making accessories and things like this. So we want to create this ecosystem. We have some partnerships already that we're building relationships with local companies and organizations and schools. Um, and so we're working on building that right now. But first things first, we have to build the capacity to manufacture our own garments. So
Mm.
that's number one. So we're, buying equipment right now. We have industrial machines. We're like, you know, um, basically renovating space, things like this. So that's what's happening right now. And then at the same time, trying to show face a bit more so people know more about Girl in Space Club and what we're doing, and hopefully build relationships with new clients and go from there. But that's kind of the main thing for 2024. Build this
I love
manufacturing arm, build the ecosystem, and start getting more clientele.
Amazing. Yes, I know. Lucy and I were talking. She wants to get suits made for the Sempre events team.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that we could be wrapping Girl in Space Club, but also just like look really cool while we're moving stuff around.
There you go. There you go.
So
Yeah.
we'll have to continue that conversation for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And we're also looking at the design. So at every conference, we try to get input and feedback, as much as we can from people in the industry. So we can iterate on our designs and make them better, but also come up with newer designs,
Hmm.
like we have the more fashionable flight suit, right? Versus the more utilitarian flight suit, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there are going to be some people who just maybe they don't want to be an astronaut, maybe they don't care about space, but they think that the flight suit looks cool.
Yeah.
So we make one so that you can wear it as a fashion statement piece.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of really cool where I've thought like, hey, I like that jumpsuit. I want to wear that. And
Mm-hmm.
there's also, I mean, mechanics
Yep.
and, other people who are working and usually wearing something like that or
Yep.
coveralls.
Workwear. Yep.
Yeah, they could have a more fashionable option for workwear and,
Yep.
then and maybe, obviously it might get dirty, but that's okay. Like
Yeah.
but that's really comfortable. It's going to breathe
Yes.
better. It's going to look better. Right. And,
Yeah.
for all the ladies out there, right, and not having to completely undress just to go to the bathroom, that's
Yes.
the biggest, the
Key.
biggest selling point for me.
Yeah.
Uh, I still remember last year at the Analog Astronaut Conference, one of the gentlemen raised his hands and was like, "Are you gonna make men's flight suits? Because like this would be useful for us too." And you're like, "That's not my priority right now, but maybe later."
And we have it now. And
That's
we
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, so we made the suits for men now. We have some prototypes for the kids too. So
Oh,
I
that's
mean, we're
awesome.
working. We're working, and but we're putting things out slowly, because as we hear back, we get more feedback.
Yeah.
We want to iterate on all these different things we're doing. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, no, iteration is how we get to most people just see the end result, right?
Yep.
They forget about all the iterations to get there,
Yeah.
no matter what it is. And so the more often you can iterate, the easier and more fun it can be because you're not having to like unwind years or decades of a very strict or rigid thing
Yep.
to try to incorporate something new. So I love
Yeah.
that you're doing that and like really taking it slow because that's another thing.
Yeah.
Some people rush to
No.
try to get them out faster or scale, and you're about doing it right, which is awesome.
Yeah, we care about quality. We care about the customer experience, right? So, and again, like, sure, in order for the business to exist, we have to make money, of course. But our driver, I'm being completely transparent here, right? Like, if I wanted to just coast and make money, I wouldn't have started this business.
Right. No, you'll be doing your job. Yeah.
I would just do my job and invest and you know what I mean, do some other
Yeah.
things. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it, and I care about the legacy that I leave on this next generation,
Mm,
right? And I care about these solving these problems that we aim, we set out to do with Girl in Space Club. And the flight suits are just the beginning. Like, we
yeah.
literally want to be, we will be, I'm not gonna say we want to be, we will be,
Yes.
the space outfitters. And just
Ooh.
yeah,
Yeah.
just And just like, you know, how you have spin-offs from technology that's built for space, we want to do the same, but from the fashion tech, you know, perspective. It's made for space, but guess what? There's going to be many uses for it down here on Earth.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
100%. A lot of people forget about that fact that a lot of the technology and process and products that we develop due to our space exploration projects are things we use every day here on Earth.
Yep.
And that, and it's, so some people are polarized, and it's like, no, this is actually to help also us here. And
Mm-hmm.
then we then see how are the applications, because we're going to need on-ground applications in other places too. But
Yep.
I think you need to coin space outfitters. That's going to be like, I see, like, in the future, in our spaceports, there's going to be like, some shopping, and there's going to be a space outfitters there.
There you go. Absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah, somebody just commenting Gucci space style. Yeah, we could have like a
Hey.
whole range, like whatever your budget, whatever your fashion sense, there's going to be something for you. Yeah.
Yes.
Even maybe like a hot topic type of area,
Mm-hmm.
right? For the
Mm-hmm.
team angst. I think that's going to be necessary. Like, no matter if we're on Earth or we're up in space, it's like
Yeah.
part of the journey.
There you go.
Sabrina, amazing. This has been so much fun. I want to ask you one of my questions that I always like to ask my guests is, what do you believe your superpower is?
I believe my superpower is, so I'll say it's like a superpower, but it also can be kryptonite, right? Like if I think about it like Superman, right? I have the ability to see things in my mind before they actually exist, and no matter what anyone tells me, I have it's like I have this, like, I like zone in on it until it actually happens. Like, I can be very, very driven to the point where, like, to me, it already happened before it actually takes place in reality.
Yeah.
And I can stay there until it actually happens.
That's definitely a superpower and a kryptonite, because you could get kind of lost in that too sometimes.
Yes.
Or get,
yes.
if you're anything like me, maybe stubborn in like, no, yes. We're gonna make this happen.
Yes.
I see it.
I believe in possibilities. So when people say you can't, I think many times in my life, people have told me, oh, girls don't do this, or that's impossible. And so I used to be driven by proving that, okay, it is, but now it's more so, this is the purpose and it will be done, kind of thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sabrina, if people want to reach out to you to connect, learn more about Girl in Space Club, where's the best place for them to do that?
I would say Instagram. So you can follow the Girl in Space Club.
Is it the Girl in Space Club or just Girl in Space?
At Girl in Space Club.
Yeah.
And it's singular, not plural. I know people want to add an S to the girls. Yeah. Girl in Space Club. Or you can follow me. Also, my personal IG account is Nefertiti Pocahontas with a K. But you can find that one from the Girl in Space Day. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to our panel coming up at the end of the month. Is going to be here before we know it.
I know.
And I'll bring my suit so we can definitely be repping it at the show, at the conference, and do like mini fashion shows every now and again.
Awesome. Yes.
So thank you so much for saying yes to the podcast and joining me today.
Yes. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. I think what you're doing, merging the creative with the vocational and the technical skills for young people, is just incredible, because it's showing them what is possible. And ultimately, life is full of possibilities. And so I think that's a really beautiful mission that you have. So thank you so much for bringing that out to the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. For everyone who's joining us today, thank you for joining us, especially after a holiday yesterday. Enjoy your weekends. We'll be back next week with another female in the space industry, Rachel Lyons. We'll see you soon.